Welcome to episode 49 of Book Nerd Paradise, where we get to know an author as they tell us one of their favorite quotes, read from their work, pose a trivia question, and give away a book or two. Hi, I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure series. And as I've mentioned in the last couple of shows, I mentioned that I post a lot of reviews for the books that I read, mostly YA fantasy and sci-fi. And this week, I just posted a review for Elise Kova's Earth's End, which came out on the 11th. So brand new release. It's the third book in her Air Awakens series, which I have to say, I absolutely love this series. So anyway, her third book, Earth's End, I absolutely love, the same as I've loved the first two books. So I would wholeheartedly recommend that book. So if you want to see what my specific thoughts were about it, please feel free to read my review of it at blog.lrwlee.com. And while you're there, scroll to the top and subscribe to be emailed whenever there's new releases or new reviews that I post, and you'll be notified, obviously, instantly. Okay? All right, so today I'm excited. We have YA fantasy author Laura Thalassa with us. Laura was born and raised in Fresno, California, and she spent her childhood cooking up fantastic tales with her best friend. Lucky for her overactive imagination, she also happens to love writing. She now spends her days penning everything from paranormal romance to young adult novels. Laura lives in Santa Barbara, California with her husband, author Dan Ricks. Please join me in welcoming Laura Thalassa.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to do this today.
It is awesome to have you with us. I am looking forward to what you're going to share with us. This is good. You're going to be sharing from the Unearthly, which is the first book in the Unearthly series. So that we can get a feel for the book, would you briefly share a synopsis with us?
The Unearthlies is about 16-year-old Gabrielle Fiore, who is a supernatural. She doesn't know it at the beginning of the book, but she's a supernatural that starts out by attending Peel Academy, which is a private school on the British Isles, specifically this tiny little island called the Isle of Man. And there she sees her power awakened. But in addition to one power awakening, a couple other powers awaken, and one of them is extremely unexpected. And so this is the tale of her figuring out her powers, and there's a lot of intrigue, and yeah, it begins her personal journey.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like a very interesting tale. So we will certainly be anxiously awaiting what you read from. So it sounds good. So you've selected a favorite quote. If you would share that with our listeners and then tell us why it's a favorite.
So the quote I chose was, I had a really tough time actually picking this out. I like to collect quotes and I had too many to choose from, but I felt like at this point in time in my life, I felt like this was a really good quote, both for me and I feel like for a lot of people out there who might be in my position or might have been in my position. And the quote is, "Everything you want is on the other side of fear." And it's the author of the quote is Jack Canfield, who's actually known for the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Didn't know that when I found the quote, but I really like this quote because I think that a lot of our biggest hopes and dreams are really, really, really frightening. And what's really frightening about them is that there's the possibility of failure. And I think that a lot of people are almost afraid to go after what they really want because there's always the possibility that you're really going to get hurt in the process, that you won't be able to accomplish your dreams. And I think if you can get past that fear and be okay with the fact that you probably will stumble a few times, you can actually get everything that you want. And so that was really inspiring to me, especially because as an author, I really feel like I went through that stage of really facing my fears of putting something that I felt was very private, a book, all my personal thoughts out there for people to enjoy or not enjoy. And but because of that, I get to write all day, and that's well worth it.
That's awesome. Yes, I well remember when you're releasing your first book, it's almost like your first child being released into the world, and you're just waiting for people to they either love it or they hate it. But when they hate it, their criticism just, it just hurts, right? So yes, and I think many times if we can't get over the fear of that rejection, the potential of rejection, then we will never realize the dream, at least if whatever it might be. But in my particular case, it was being an author, and yours too. So.
Yeah.
You're also going to be giving away a book. Would you tell our listeners what you're giving away?
So I'm giving away a print copy of The Unearthly. Here it is. And it's a signed copy, and I got a little bookmark in here. And so I'm giving that away to US readers. And then in addition, I'll be giving away an ebook to international readers. So 2 books.
Yay! This is great.
I know, always nice.
So you have 2 chances to win. So if you're international, and then if you're domestic, that's great. Okay, so to enter to win, all you need to do is in the comments right down here, right below, leave a comment about the show. It could be the answer to the trivia question. It could be just what you liked about the show itself, whatever it might be. With that response, please also leave either an email address, Twitter, or Facebook, some way to get a hold of you, because people don't seem to pay attention to their YouTube mailbox. So if you're a winner, we certainly want to get a hold of you, so make sure you help us to do that.
Have you ever heard the expression awesome possum? Are you looking for great reads for your kids or grandkids? Award-winning author M.K. Mathias has recently published the first 3 books in the Awesome Possum series for early readers. And the expression awesome possum is apropos because these books have an engaging rhyming tale with full-color illustrations that are sure to keep kids riveted and begging for more. Awesome Possum by M.K. Mathias. Get one or all of them at Amazon today.
You'll be reading from your novel, The Unearthly, which is the first book in the Unearthly series. Would you briefly set up the portion you'll be reading from and then share with us?
Gabrielle Fiord is going through what's called an awakening. And it's a ritual that all the students who attend Peel Academy have to go through to essentially awaken their powers. Up until this point, their powers are latent. And once they're awakened, they're activated. And so she really has no idea what's going to happen to her. And so I'm going to be reading about the process, the ritual that she goes through, and what happens following that. All right, so here it is. The girl began to fall asleep as the wine took effect. The matriarchs nearest her caught her slumbering form and together arranged her on the altar. This was where the true magic began. They joined hands, and the chanting increased in volume. The witches in the room focused the magic, coaxing it from the depths of the unconscious girl. Slowly, it blossomed, taking on a golden hue and illuminating the girl from within. It concentrated in the bloodstream before moving outward, towards the skin's surface. The moment the magic broke through the surface, the girl's skin rippled. 1,000 feathers, or maybe they were scales, ruffled along her skin before resettling, invisible once again. "We welcome you, Siren," a matriarch proclaimed, but the magic was still thrumming through the girl. She had more to awaken. Golden particles coalesced over the girl's heart. They thinned and stretched upwards, creating a fine golden cord. "A soulmate," someone breathed. "We welcome you, soulmate," another matriarch proclaimed. The golden cord receded into the girl's heart. Still, the magic would not settle. "Strange indeed," someone murmured. A sudden gust of wind tore through the cavernous room, blowing out the candles and torches. Someone screamed. Something evil had entered, but the matriarchs knew not what presence joined them. The only light source was the girl's magic. The matriarchs waited, holding their breath. Suddenly, the girl's body began to convulse. Her back arched. There were more screams as women ran to her. Blood oozed from the girl's eyes and ears, and her lips pulled back. The matriarchs watched as 2 long, sharp canines extended themselves. Blood dripped from her teeth as her gums ripped. As quick as the convulsions came on, they ended. The girl's body dropped back onto the altar, limp like a doll. The magic receded back into her. "Let's get some light in here," a woman said. A few candles were lit, and the matriarch slowly approached the girl. A brave woman put her fingers to the girl's neck. After a moment, she turned to the others. "Call an ambulance." I woke up to darkness. I blinked in an effort to make out my surroundings, but I couldn't see anything. As I tried to sit, my head hit a solid surface. Ow! I reached up to rub my head, and my elbow banged against a metal wall, making a tinny, reverberating sound. I tried not to panic. Where was I? I tentatively reached up and touched the low metal ceiling. It felt flimsy. My hands followed the ceiling's contours and quickly hit the edge of what appeared to be a metal box. I felt around with my feet as my pulse spiked, now frantic to figure out where I was. As I moved, a piece of paper attached to my big toe brushed my skin. I sucked in my breath. Oh no. I remembered from court TV. There was only one place where tags were placed on toes, the morgue. Somehow I had ended up in the morgue. I let loose a blood-curdling scream and began kicking the metal wall beyond my feet. To my shock, as I kicked the wall, the metal gave in. It groaned as each successive blow dented it outwards. On the other side of the metal, I heard someone cursing. "Help, please," I shouted. I heard someone swear. What in the world? Suddenly, I was rolled out from my metal prison. I sat up, belatedly realizing that only a thin paper blanket covered me. I clutched it to myself and squinted up at a young man in scrubs. His face was pale and his eyes were huge as he stared at my lively appearance. He began to back up. "I'll go get..." He turned on his foot and sprinted out of the morgue. I sat there, stunned by my surroundings. Had I died? I tried to recall my last memories. I remembered wearing the white robe and being led into a dark room. Women dressed in shimmering garments gave me something to drink. Then it all went fuzzy. For a moment, that was all I could recall. Then a dizzying series of images came flooding back. There had been blood everywhere, and the awful convulsions. I put a hand to my mouth when I remembered the sharp, lacerating pain where my gums split open. What had happened to me? Distantly, I heard a series of footsteps slapping against the linoleum, along with the sound of rickety wheels. The doors burst open, and a group of doctors and nurses came in, wheeling in a gurney. They placed me on it and began strapping various medical instruments to my body. Then the questions began. How long have you been awake? 5 minutes? Are you experiencing nausea? No. Does anything hurt? Not particularly. How do you feel? I thought about this last question as they rolled me down the hall. I feel good, I paused. Actually, I feel really good. In fact, my senses were sharper than they'd ever been. I could clearly see all the way down the hall, and I could smell everything from the chemical scent of disinfectant to the underlying smell of bodily fluids, sweat, vomit, urine, blood. I asked out loud the question that had plagued me. Why was I in the morgue? The doctor nearest me looked over. Last night you were proclaimed legally dead. So that's the end of that.
Oh, whew, boy, that was awesome. I mean, I'm like right there as you're describing what's happening, right? Oh, goodness. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Our guest author last week, YA fantasy author Rachel E. Carter, posed a trivia question for us.
So my question was a riddle. I am 2 and 2. I am hot. I am cold. I am the parent of numbers that cannot be told. I'm a gift beyond measure, a matter of course, and I'm yielded with pleasure, would take it by force. And the answer to this is a kiss. So those are 2 lips, hot, cold, parent of numbers that cannot be told. The last line, matter of yielded with pleasure when taken by force, not necessarily always true, but this came from my favorite book series when I was younger, The Forbidden Game. So the guy was like a seducer.
Laura, you have a trivia question for us. What is that?
My trivia question is from Harry Potter. I hear there's been a lot of Harry Potter questions. So this one is, who founded Slytherin House in the Harry Potter series?
Okay, that's a great question. And you're right, that one has not been asked. Good stuff. So those of you who know, don't ruin it for everybody. But if you don't happen to know and you're dying to find out, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, because Laura will reveal the answer to this trivia question next episode. So you want to make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss the answer. So Laura, are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Two things. The first thing is I just want to thank, honestly, all the readers out there who make it possible for me and everyone else who comes onto the show to, write really fun stories. I know that for my readers, I'm blessed with the best readers in the world, and I might be biased, but but I just wanted to thank everyone who takes a chance on my books, because I really appreciate that. At the end of the day, I appreciate everyone who enjoys my stories, and honestly also those who give me constructive criticism. And the other thing that I really wanted to mention was, and I touched on it a little earlier, but just before I was a writer, I was a reader, and I never really thought that I could bridge that gap. I loved stories. I loved reading stories, and I felt like I was always searching for that perfect story that I wanted to read. And as a writer, you get to write that perfect story that you really want out there. And anyone who's ever thought of wanting to write a book, that you should, and that you should follow your dreams, because all writers have started out at that point. You can, all you have to do is have a story that you can't get out of your mind, and just spend a little time each day writing it. And once you write it, see what you can do with that story. You will fail if you don't try, but you might not fail if you do.
That's great. Yes, great words, encouraging words for sure. Well, I hope you all have enjoyed meeting Laura Thalassa, just getting to know her a little bit. I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series. And most of you have heard me say it before, but just a reminder, Book 1 and the prequel are both, the ebooks are available free for download on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Google Play. So if you haven't done so already, please do avail yourself of those.
Click the button to subscribe to the Book Nerd Paradise YouTube channel so you don't miss upcoming authors, giveaways, and answers to trivia questions.
Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate the fact that you've tuned in. If you really enjoy this program, please do tell other people about it. I've enjoyed having you here, and I look forward to seeing you again next episode.